In the center of Japan, in a city most travelers pass through on their way to somewhere else, one of the oldest sacred places in the country still stands. Not in Kyoto, not in Tokyo, but in Nagoya. Nagoya sits almost exactly in the center of Japan. For over 1,000 years, it was the place where East met West. The Great Tokaido Road, connecting Kyoto and Edo, passed directly through this city. Every merchant, every samurai, every pilgrim walking between the old capital and the new rested here along the way. And at the heart of this city, surrounded by a forest that refuses to be modern, a shrine has stood for nearly 1,900 years. That is older than most nations on Earth, older than the Viking Age, older than the Silk Road at its peak. And somewhere within these walls, behind wooden doors that never open, a sword rests in silence. Not just any sword, one of the 3 sacred treasures of Japan. The first thing to notice is the sound. Gravel shifts beneath every step, small white stones, raked and laid with care. In Japanese, this path is called the sando, the road that leads to a sacred place. The gravel is not here by accident. In the old days, it told the gods that someone was coming. Each step, an announcement. Each footfall, a small act of respect. Just inside the gate, to the left, a stone bridge crosses a shallow channel. It is called the Nijugo-cho Bridge, the 25-slab bridge. 25 flat stones, laid side by side. It is the oldest stone bridge in Nagoya. Once, the Great Tokaido Road passed close to this spot. The post station here was called Miyajuku, the Shrine Station, named for this very shrine. For centuries, travelers crossed this bridge on their way to pray. Consider the people who once crossed here. A merchant from Edo, dusty from weeks of walking, stopping to wash his hands before entering the shrine. A samurai's wife, traveling alone, carrying a prayer for her husband's safe return. A poet, pausing on this bridge to listen to the water below and compose a verse he would later forget. They are all gone now. Their footsteps have long since faded. But the stones remain. The same stones, still here. Beyond the bridge, the trees open to reveal a pond. Minami Shinaike, the South Sacred Pond. The surface is perfectly still. The trees above it are mirrored below. There is no story to tell about this pond, no legend, no famous name attached. It is simply water, holding the sky in its surface, as it has done for longer than anyone has watched. Sometimes the most peaceful places are the ones with no story at all. Just water, just trees, just light. And perhaps that is enough. A pond does not need a name to hold the sky. A tree does not need a story to offer shade. The pond does not wait for anyone. It was here long before anyone noticed it. It will be here long after. There is a small museum called the Kusanagi-kan. Inside, they keep a collection of Japanese swords, not the legendary blade hidden in the shrine, but others, forged across the centuries. The story of that legendary sword comes later. For now, there is only the path. In many cultures, the entrance to a sacred place is designed to impress. Grand staircases, golden doors. In Japan, the entrance is a walk, a long, slow walk through nature, designed not to impress, but to transform. By the time a visitor reaches the inner shrine, something has shifted. The path has done its work. The gravel decided that. The trees here are enormous. Camphor trees, kusu in Japanese, hundreds of years old. Their roots grip the earth like ancient hands. This one is called the O-kusu, the Great Camphor. It is said to be 1,000 years old. Tradition says it was planted by the hand of Kobo Daishi, the monk who brought Shingon Buddhism to Japan in the 9th century. Whether or not that is true, the tree has been standing here longer than most human stories last. Atsuta Shrine once had 7 great camphor trees. They were called the Nanahon Kusu. Some are gone now, but the ones that remain have grown into something more than trees. In summer, the canopy blocks the sun entirely. In winter, it holds back the wind. The shrine exists inside its own climate, a few degrees cooler in the heat, a few degrees warmer in the cold. This is something shrines in Japan do well. They do not just build a structure, they build a world around it. The path, the trees, the stones, the way light falls at a certain hour. Everything is placed with intention. But perhaps placed is the wrong word. The trees were not placed. They were allowed to grow, to spread, to age, to become whatever they wished to become. And in return, the trees allowed the shrine to exist beneath them. This is not preservation in the Western sense, not a museum keeping objects behind glass. This is a living arrangement, a conversation between human intention and the will of the forest, carried on in silence for nearly 2,000 years. There is a word in Japanese, tamizu. It means simply hand water. Before entering the inner grounds of any shrine, there is a place to pause. Water pours from a stone basin. In Shinto, water is not just water. It is a way to leave the outside world behind. Visitors wash their hands here, left hand first, then right. Not because the hands are dirty, but because the act of washing creates a boundary between the ordinary and the sacred. The air changes here. Something in the atmosphere grows heavier, more still. The Kagura Den appears to the side, the hall where sacred dances are performed for the gods. Beyond it, through the trees, the main hall waits. But before arriving, there is a story that must be told. The story of why this shrine exists at all. Japan has 3 sacred treasures, Sanshu no Jingi. They are perhaps the oldest symbols of national identity in the world. No one knows exactly when these 3 objects were first gathered together. Their origins dissolve into mythology, into a time when gods walked the earth and the border between heaven and Japan had not yet been drawn. A mirror kept at Ise Shrine, far to the south. A jewel kept within the Imperial Palace in Tokyo. And a sword. The sword is here, in Atsuta. In this quiet shrine, in a city that most of the world has never heard of. These 3 objects have been separated for centuries, perhaps for millennia. The mirror in one direction, the jewel in another, the sword here in the middle. And yet together, they form a single idea, that the authority of the emperor comes not from force, but from something deeper. Wisdom, compassion, courage, mirror, jewel, sword. The main hall appears ahead. It is not as tall as one might expect, not as ornate as the temples of Kyoto. Atsuta does not try to impress. It simply exists. And it has existed for so long that the wood and the air and the earth have become the same thing. This is the Honden, the innermost building, the place where the sword is said to rest. The sword hidden here is called Kusanagi no Tsurugi, the grass-cutting sword. Its story begins in the age of myth, long before written history reached these islands. According to the oldest texts of Japan, a god named Susanoo once slew a great serpent. The creature had 8 heads and 8 tails. It terrorized a village and demanded the sacrifice of young women, 1 each year. Susanoo agreed to face the beast. He set out 8 vats of sake, 1 for each head. The serpent drank, and as it slept, Susanoo struck. When he cut open the serpent's tail, he found something inside, a sword, a blade so sharp that it could cut through anything the world had made. He gave this sword to the sun goddess, Amaterasu, and she, in time, passed it down to the first emperors of Japan. The sword became one of 3 objects given to each new emperor upon their ascension. A mirror, a jewel, a sword. The mirror represents wisdom, the jewel, benevolence, and the sword, valor. Together, they form the spiritual foundation of an unbroken imperial line stretching back into the mist of legend. The sword passed through many hands before it came to rest here. One story stands above the rest. A prince named Yamato Takaru was given the sword for a journey to the east. He was young and far from home. During his travels, an enemy set fire to the fields around him. The flames closed in from every side. Yamato Takeru drew the sword and cut the grass. The fire parted. The wind changed direction. The flames turned back upon his enemies. From that day, the blade was called Kusanagi, the grass cutter. But Yamato Takaru's story does not end in triumph. On his way home, he fell ill. He left the sword with his wife, Miyasuhime, here in Atsuta. He never returned, and the sword has remained here ever since, for nearly 2,000 years. Waiting, perhaps, for a hand that will never come. No one enters this building. No camera has ever been inside. The Emperor of Japan has never seen the sword. Neither has any priest alive today. There are stories, recorded but unverified, that shrine priests opened the container during repairs in the Edo period. One account describes a white blade shaped like an iris leaf, roughly 80 centimeters long. The priests who saw it, the story says, were exiled or fell ill and died. The container was sealed again. It has not been opened since. Behind the main hall, there is a path that few visitors take. It is called Kokoro no Komichi, the path of the heart. The path is closed to cameras, and perhaps that is exactly right. In Shinto, there is a word, kanagara. It means something like the way of the gods, or the natural flow of all things. It is not a commandment, not a set of rules to follow. It is closer to a feeling. The sense that the trees and the stones and the water and the wind are not separate from the sacred. They are the sacred. This is why Japanese shrines are built among trees, not against them. The forest is not decoration. The forest is the shrine. The buildings are simply a way for humans to say, this is noticed, this is honored. Atsuta's forest holds a word that has no equivalent in English. Komorebi, light leaking through trees. It exists in Japanese not because English speakers have never seen sunlight through leaves, but because they never thought to give it its own name. In Japan, it was noticed. It was named. And in naming it, it became something worth paying attention to. Somewhere deeper in the forest, hidden along this path, there is a shrine called Aichi no Misaki. It is one of the most sacred places in all of Atsuta. No photographs are allowed. No descriptions exist of what is inside. Only silence and trees and whatever lives in the space between belief and knowing. Along this same path lies Shimizu-sha, the shrine of clear water. A spring has been flowing here since before anyone can remember. It is dedicated to Mizu Hanome, a goddess who governs water itself. For centuries, people came here to wash their eyes with this water, believing it would restore their sight. There is even a legend, one that scholars are careful to call a legend, that a stone beneath the water is connected to Yang Guifei, the famous beauty of the Tang Dynasty in China. How a Chinese empress came to be linked to a spring in a Japanese shrine is a story no one can fully explain. But that is often how sacred places work. Stories attach themselves to the water and the stone, and over time, the stories become as real as the place itself. There is a wall here that most visitors walk right past. It is not tall, not beautiful in any obvious way. The plaster is weathered, the tiles are dark. But this wall has a name, Nobunaga Bay, Nobunaga's Wall. In the year 1560, a young warlord named Oda Nobunaga came to this shrine the night before a battle. He was 26 years old. He commanded perhaps 3,000 soldiers. The army marching toward him numbered 25,000. By every measure, he would lose. Nobunaga came here, to Atsuta, and prayed before the battle. His exact words are lost to history. What is known is that he asked for victory and promised to build a wall for the shrine if the gods answered. The next morning, a sudden rainstorm struck. The larger army was caught in a narrow valley, disorganized and blind in the rain. Nobunaga attacked. The Battle of Okihazama lasted less than an hour. Against all odds, Nobunaga won, and he kept his promise. This wall was built in 1560. It has stood here for over 460 years, longer than the United States has existed. That young man went on to change the course of Japanese history. The walk back takes a different route. Away from the main path, the shrine reveals its quieter face. This smaller shrine is called Beku Hakengu. It was built in the year 708, over 1,300 years ago. Nobunaga repaired it. Ieyasu, the man who would later become shogun and rule all of Japan, rebuilt its worship hall. Even in a shrine full of history, some corners hold more than others. The walk back always feels different. The same stones, the same trees. But something has shifted. Perhaps it is only the angle of the light, or perhaps something else. Nearly 2,000 years of human devotion rest along this gravel path. There is a Japanese concept called yoin, the lingering reverberation. It describes what lingers after the music has stopped. The resonance of a temple bell long after the bell has been struck. That is what Atsuta offers. Not answers, not certainty, just a quiet resonance. Atsuta Shrine will be here tomorrow morning when the first light touches the Torii Gate. It will be here next season when the leaves turn and fall. It will be here in 100 years, long after everyone walking this path today has been forgotten. And the sword will still be sleeping, unseen, untouched, in the dark, behind doors that no one alive remembers opening. Some things do not need to be seen to be real. Some things are more powerful precisely because they remain hidden. The gravel path settles. The gate stands where it has always stood. Tomorrow morning, the first visitors will come, and the gravel will shift again beneath their feet, just as it has for nearly 2,000 years.